First semester vocabulary review. Okay, questions 1 and 2 are asking about domain and range, and when you see those words, you need to think Dr. XY lost his ID. Now, I only need the Dr. XY part, so when you're looking, range is talking about Y values, domain is talking about X values. So domain is all possible X values, range is all possible Y values. So when you look at the next two problems, number 3 and 4, when you're talking about domain, we already said that's X values. Well, those are all your X values. So you would just list those. Same thing when you're talking about range, but this time it's asking you about the Y values. So that one would be 4, 0, and 16. Now for number 5, when I ask you what is an ordered pair, I just want you to remember that the X value goes first and the Y value goes second. Number 6 talks about variable, coefficient, and constant. A variable is just a letter, the coefficient is a number attached to your letter, and the constant is the one that does not have a letter. So remember, the constant is constantly alone, he does not have a letter partner, and you do need to make sure you take that negative sign with it. When you're talking about like terms, remember that like terms have the same letter raised to the same exponent. So 5x squared and negative 3x squared are the like terms right here. Even though negative 8x has the same letter, it does not have the same exponent. Okay, something that makes it, something is considered a function whenever the x values do not repeat. So for example, if I had an x and a y, if I have negative 1, 0, 1, and I have something like, let's say, 2, 0, and 2 right here, you're only caring about the x values. If all of those x numbers are different numbers, then it is a function. So if you look at example number 9, which of the following is a function? That's a negative 1, a 0, and a positive 1. This one has negative 2, 2, and negative 2. Those two numbers are the same thing in the x spot. Remember, ordered pairs go x comma y. So that one is not a function, but a is because all those x values are different. Remember that f of x is just a fancy name for y, so it's the exact same thing as the letter y. But this is how it's used. When they say f of x equals x plus 3, and then they ask what's f of 2, well guys, remember, this is f of x. So they replace the x with a 2, and they want me to do the same thing. So here's my problem. It goes x plus 3, so if I have 2 plus 3, that means my answer would be 5. When you have something in slope-intercept form, which means you've got the y by itself, everything else is on the other side. The slope is your coefficient, the number attached to the letter x. Not the x with it, just the number in front of it. The y-intercept is the constant because he's constantly alone. Now, when you're talking about the opposite reciprocal, reciprocal means reflipical, so I'm going to take whatever fraction they gave me and flip it around. Now, the opposite means to change the sign. So since this was a positive, now my answer is negative. And the reason that we care about that is for perpendicular slopes. So for number 4, when you're talking about parallel, those have the same slopes. So remember, slope is the number attached to your letter x. The one of them that has the exact same thing is answer choice B. But when you're given that same type of question and they ask about perpendicular, that one is an opposite reciprocal. So here's the fraction, that's my slope. If I flip it around, now it's 3 over 4. This was negative, so the opposite is positive. So the only one that matches that slope is answer choice A. It has 3/4. Okay. Which of the following is not an example of an inequality? Now guys, inequality means it's not an equal sign. So this is not an equal sign. And I bring that up because a lot of the times in problems, I ask you to graph the inequality, and a lot of you don't remember what I'm talking about. When you have an inequality symbol, you need to be worried about solid or dashed lines and shading up or down. If there is no line underneath it, that means you're going to connect it with a dashed line. And this one is a greater than symbol, so that means we are going to be shading up. So I'm going to connect my dots with a dashed line, and I'm shading above that picture, so it would be everything above the line. And I know my dashed line was not very good, so I'm going to fix it a little bit so that you can see it really needs to be a dashed line. Okay? All right. Now number 18 asks, is x equals 2 a solution to negative x plus 1 equals 17? Well guys, take that number, if it's a solution, and you plug it into your equation, you're going to get something that's true. So they've got negative 8x, so I'm going to plug in 2 in place of x, plus 1 equals 17. Now all you really need to do now is plug this side into the calculator and see what you get. That's going to give me, I've got negative 8 times 2 plus 1. that ends up giving me negative 15. So that tells me negative 15 equals 17, which is not true. So that is not a solution to that equation. Okay. Number 19 is the same idea, but instead of just having one value of x, you've got an x and a y. So let's plug both of those in. 4 times my x value, which is 10, minus 3 times my y value, which was 2, and when I plug that in, it needs to equal 34. So let's plug it in just like it looks on that left side. 4 times 10 minus 3 times 2. That one ends up giving me 34. So 34 equals 34. That is a true statement. So yes, it is a solution. Same idea on number 20. Which of the following is not, so watch out for the phrasing, a solution to x plus y equals 8? So if I have x plus y equals 8, you're basically just adding your ordered pair numbers together because x plus y. So I know 2 plus 6 gives me 8. Let's check the other ones. I'm going to add those together. I've got negative 7 plus 15. Well, that one equals 8, so that's okay. If I have 11 plus that negative 3 for answer choice C, that one also gives me 8. But when you add negative 1 plus 7 together, that one gives you 6. So that's why this one is not correct, because negative 1 plus 7 equals 6. Now, what is the solution to a system of equations? Guys, when you see a system of equations, that means that you've got two of them. And remember when we started graphing things? When you had two lines, the solution was where the two lines intersect, or where they cross. So that's why it is answer choice C. Now, number 22 wants to know what is the y-intercept. So this is when you have to remember you've got an x and a y-axis. The y-axis is right here. My line crossed it right down there at the negative 3. So I would take your answer if you say negative 3, because sometimes that's how they want you to write it on the star. But if you wrote it as an ordered pair, remember x comma y, it was on the y-axis, that's why it goes in the y spot. Now the last one, number 23, what is the 0? You have to remember that that just means what is the x-intercept. So here's my x-axis, the line crossed it right there at the negative 2. So my answer is negative 2 or negative 2 comma 0.